It's all on you now. And just give me some reaction. Just
Welcome to Rubbin Minds. My name is Isabella Adebuju. Over the week, Nigeria clocked 65 years since her independence. So a happy independence here on Rubbin Minds. Now, Nigerians are asking a lot of questions 65 years later, even as the prices of goods and services continue to rise, like cooking gas, and then the issues of security continue to make the headlines. We can't but help shine the spotlight on the tragic news of Somi Maduagu, a journalist based in Abuja who lost her life this week. And we're asking as Nigerians, where is that corner? His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said Nigeria has turned a corner. But has Nigeria really turned a corner? Is this a political corner or a practical corner? To discuss these issues from the front page, I have with me a governance consultant in the person of Dakpo Adaramewa. Dakpo, welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for honoring our invitation, and a happy 65th independence. I always love independence because as a child we would dress up and we would reflect on the diversity of Nigeria, but I think it's also a time of reflection, and Mr. President in his speech says that we've turned a corner. Do you believe that Nigeria has turned a corner as she clocks 65?
I mean, we're all very happy to see that we've celebrated yet another year of independence. But I'm not quite sure what corner the president is referring to and who exactly turned that corner. But I do know that for the average Nigerian, the only corner they have seen, shall we say, is the tight corner they are in terms of resources, in terms of their well-being, in terms of their safety, in terms of their general outlook on life. It is the tight corner that most Nigerians are facing right now. That's the only corner I see people turning.
Because I mean, I'm hearing you, it's a period where we're seeing rising prices. Some will say that it's expected because we're now into the ember months and things tend to rise. I mean, we have cooking gas going up very high, and we're wondering 17,500 naira for a 12.5 kilogram canister of cooking gas. Where next? What can Nigerians expect economically, just in terms of standard of living? Do you see it getting better? Do you see this tight corner opening up?
I remain optimistic, but I don't believe that any magic will happen except Nigerians themselves demand a certain amount of change. And I think the cooking gas, shall we say, it's kind of ironic. You know, on one hand, we have the president telling us we've turned around a corner and things are getting better. And immediately after, we see a sharp rise in one of the basic commodities that everybody uses and everybody needs. And I'm talking about almost 30+%. It's quite a ridiculous figure when you think about it. So it just goes to show evidence that maybe what they're telling us is not true. I mean, we all know that it's not quite what we're experiencing.
You know, some will say that the president is being honest with some of the tight reforms and tight corners Nigerians, to borrow that phrase from you, Nigerians have had to endure. But hope is on the horizon. We've gone past the hard times. Do you think this is more about being honest with the people, or is also maybe a lack of empathy and a lack of sensitivity where the constant message is just hold on, just hold on, just hold on, we're going to get through it?
Well, there's two things we need to explore, right? We need to ask ourselves as Nigerians, do we want a government that is empathetic or a government that shows solidarity? Now, I care less for a government who tells me, oh, they feel my pain. I want a government who goes through the darkness and the hard periods with its people. You cannot have a government that is spending billions on jets. You cannot have a government that is spending billions renovating conference centers. More than half what they spent on student loans, they spent on renovating one conference center in one location, right? You cannot have a government that is telling people to go through the hard time, but is buying new cars for the senators. It's ridiculous, right? So more than empathy, we need solidarity. We need a government that is going to go through these dark parts with us and show us by example that, look at us, we haven't done this. We've cut down on our expenses. We ourselves are managing so that Nigeria can prosper, right? We don't need that two-faced story of telling us, bear it, don't worry, hope is around the corner, hope is around the corner, whereas in reality, they are enjoying and we are suffering.
So, when it comes to independence, like I said earlier on, we reflect on the diversity of Nigeria, the tribes, our children wear our national costumes to school, and we say in brotherhood we stand, though tribes and tongues may differ. Beyond the change of that national anthem, do we really see that unity, that brotherhood that we now sing about 65 years later? Or have they somehow managed to still win, the colonial masters, with their divide and rule and keeping us apart?
I'm not a believer in the fact that colonial masters are still meddling in the affairs of Nigerians. If they are, it's because our leaders have let them. And it's normal, if you look through history far back enough, you know that at one point, big powers mess with small powers. But it is on every nation state to wake up to reject the influences of outside people. So the pressure is on our leaders actually to chart a new way forward. And in terms of the unity of Nigerians, I believe it is there. I believe we Nigerians know that, we're all the same. We're all going through the same things. The only problem, the only challenge we have is resisting the misinformation that comes usually around election, right? All of a sudden, right now, you take a state like Lagos State, we're all relatively we're getting along, everything is going well, but all of a sudden something happens close to election, we start hearing, the Yoruba don't like the Igbo, whereas in our day-to-day interaction, we're interacting with each other fine. We're opening up shops next to each other. We're living in the same street, in the same neighborhood. We care about each other. But once shall we say, the meddlers come in, right, we need to have a robust identity enough to be able to push back on those things and say it doesn't matter where the person is from, it is more about the content of the person's character.
Yeah, and we're marrying each other. I mean, you speak to people, you find out, I'm Igbo, I'm Yoruba, I'm Igbo and Yoruba, my husband is Igbo and Yoruba, and I know a lot of people are intermarrying, and we have NYC that gets us to visit different parts of the country. I want to move to just the cost of living, because I think that's something that affects everybody. We've touched on cooking gas, but in terms of transportation, healthcare, you mentioned the student loans, education, how are we faring as a nation 65 years later?
We're struggling, which is... It's interesting when we throw out these figures. I think one of the biggest things they're talking about is the increase in non-oil revenue and how that is supposed to be something we're proud of. Now, we need to unpack what they mean by, non-oil revenue so that we can understand how it's affecting us as Nigerians. There's only limited ways that the government can raise revenue. And one of the ways is taxation. So if they're not making money from oil, they're making it through VAT, through different forms of taxes, corporate taxes. Now, if the government is generating more revenue, it's taking it from us. We then have to ask the question, how are they spending that money? And the truth is, none of us has seen any difference in our daily life. I haven't seen any new roads around my house. I haven't seen any changes that would suggest that I am benefiting from these new taxes that they're raising from us, the people. If anything, our hospitals are just as bad. I know we're going to get on to talk about some issues right now, but our hospitals are bad, the roads are bad, electricity is not getting better, the cost of living is going higher, and at the same time, the government is supposed to, is telling us that we should be proud of the fact that they've been able to raise more revenue from us, the people. No, that's not. I mean, look at something as basic as giving us a report on the budget expenditure. Till today, as far as I know, it's been almost a year since the government was able to say, this is how we spent the budget. This is something that was done quarterly and hasn't been missed for almost 15 years. But yet somehow this government over the last almost 1 year has been unable to say to us that, yes, we're generating more revenue, but this is also how we're spending it. It's just a mark of failure.
Listening to you, it reminds me of some of the headlines I've seen as a student of history or on the internet or watching documentaries, how Nigerians over the years have complained about the same old issues. It's almost like deja vu. And that begs the question of, we as Nigerians, are we just used to managing things, or are things really getting worse periodically because it's the same complaint year in, year out?
You see, I firmly believe that Nigerians are, and history has shown us, that we are resilient people. We are strong. We've been through civil wars, military dictatorships. We've been through the lot of it. And now we are going through hardships, right? But that resilience is a two-edged sword, right? Because unfortunately, it seems we keep taking the pain, we keep taking the pressure, we keep taking it, we keep taking it, we keep taking it. And I think it is better for us to constructively release that tension than to wait for a natural, shall we say, eruption, which we have seen, in the past, because that's when things get out of hand. It is better for us as a people to say, okay, you know what? Yes, we are resilient enough to take this hardship, to manage, to cut down from 3 meals to 2, to cut down from meat every day to meat on Sundays, right? We should say enough is enough, right? And we have the most beautiful tool, which to give feedback to the government, and that's elections. Right? And we have another one coming up in a few years. And it's about time we let them know truly how we feel as a people.
As I was listening to you, the word that came into mind is long suffering, because there's a resilience starts somewhere and then long suffering where we're just taking it and what next? Because when you look at some of the tax reforms that are being introduced, like we barely have enough, yet we need to pay tax on this. Subsidies have been removed. And the question is, when is that light going to finally come? You are saying the elections. How confident are you that the elections can bring about that change? Because if you look at the last elections, there was that hope in the air. And I mean, for a lot of people, their hopes were dashed.
Well, what choice do we have, right? We need to go out there and try something different. And I think part of the problem, I had a conversation earlier with somebody today, and we were discussing the fact that those who have a little bit feel they have a lot to lose, right? Those who maybe have a car, those who maybe have a stable job, they feel like they have so much, right, that they can't afford to go out and vote. They can't afford to. But at the same time, those who have a little are in the most precarious position ever, right? Because if there is ever any explosion within the city, or there is a breakdown of law and order, often we are the ones within reach. The people who are making the decisions are behind closed doors, gated communities. They have armed security to protect them. Those of us who seem to symbolize a little bit of success are at the expense of the masses that are angry, justifiably, and they might misdirect that anger at us, right? So the Nigerian people need to wake up to the fact that nobody is coming to save us. Nobody is coming to save us, and we must go out there ourselves and demand change from our government. And we've gotten to the point where the government doesn't even try and lie to us, right? They know, that they're messing up, right? And it's the quality of leadership that is affecting this nation. We have everything it takes. We are the largest black nation on earth, and anything that happens here really will shape the world, the black world as we know it, right? And so we are in a blessed position, shall we say, to revolutionize everything for ourselves and everybody else. So it's time we pick the right leadership.
And when I think about elections, I also think about security, because that's such a huge, huge factor that affects people turning up at the polls, fear of losing their lives, their property. And I have to recollect what has happened this week, because it's a bigger conversation. One of us, a journalist, Somi Maduagu, was cut down. She lost her life when armed robbers took over her flat in a gated community, armed personnel, and somehow that wasn't enough. So even though the fences are going higher, the security is doubling, Nigerians are not safe, at least from what we can see. How would you rate this government in terms of security? And I'm not just saying Boko Haram or farmer headsmen clashes. I'm now talking about security even in the urban areas, Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt.
It's a very painful thing when these kind of things happen. It's very tragic, particularly when it's somebody that's known to everybody. And so we feel a sense of connection more, somebody we have seen, and somebody that we know. The painful truth is it happens in this country all around, and it happens to people that nobody gets to know their name, and it's a woeful failure on the part of the government to keep its citizens safe. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, if the government cannot keep people in Abuja, the very seat of power, safe within a gated community, then what is left for those of us who are far off? Right? I'm very sure from whatever estate she was to the very heart of government, to Aso Rock itself, cannot be more than a 25-minute drive. So if you cannot keep people safe there, then where exactly are we safe? And that's why Nigerians themselves are taking their own security into their own hands. And it's a dangerous place to be, really, because that shouldn't be. That's the whole idea of having a government. The government is meant to provide these things for us. And so our sympathies will always be with the families and what they're going through right now. And it should only drive us as Nigerians to hold our leaders to account, to not hope that things will get better naturally, but to constantly keep them under pressure until they do something differently.
So hope is not your strategy?
Well, we need to remain hopeful, because if not, action is a waste. But we also have to know that action, action is where it is. Action is where it is. And that action within a democratic system is the means of democracy, is people getting ready for the next election. And it's about time we say, okay, enough is enough. We've had the usual order. We've had the typical parties. Let's try something different. Let's vote for somebody who has empathy and somebody who cares about the Nigerian people.
Someone who will stand in solidarity with the Nigerian people. And what ways, as we round off this segment, can Nigerians truly take action? I mean, the elections, like you mentioned, is 2 years away. But from now, how can we hold our leaders accountable so they know when they come to the polls, it's not just a walkover or business as usual?
I think the easiest way we can send a message is to engage with the political structure, not wait till the election, right? There are parties, there are systems within parties, there are events being held for different parties, and you can join any party, but be engaged with the political system. Be part of a party, hold your card, engage in different institutions, so that way they can see the bubbling voice of the youth. They know that, okay, this time it's not going to be business as usual. And then also on a granular level, beyond those big steps that we can take, it's just in our day-to-day interactions to remember that we are all one, we are one Nigeria, and that we should care and love each other. We should show a certain, look at the way we drive in Nigeria. Nigeria is the only place where somebody indicates they want to turn and then people speed off to close up that gap. Come on. We can be kind to each other. We can remember that we're all in this struggle together, right? Yeah, we're not each other's enemy. I think that will serve as the foundation for building anything, whether it's political structures, whether it's voting in a new government. We need to start from an understanding that we are all Nigerians. Yeah.
Indeed, a patriotic word. We are one. Thank you very much, Dapa Daramewa, for joining us on Rubbin Minds.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. We'll now be going on a quick break on Rubbin Minds. Don't go anywhere.